Hi, this is Dr. Fazeli. I'm a geriatrician in Southern Maine. I'm recording this video for the Maine Medical Directors Association for the benefit of my colleagues in nursing homes and assisted livings. So what is the future of testing in nursing homes based on the experience of other states? If you look at the states or New Hampshire, they went from minimal testing like everywhere else to mandatory weekly testing. That unfortunately has not changed some of the outbreaks that they've been having, but it is very tempting for decision makers here in Maine to follow in their footsteps because mass testing and universal testing implies more and implies maximum testing. However, there are shortcomings that are apparent to us geriatricians, and one of them is the fact that if you have scheduled tests, that may distract from testing for new symptoms that might emerge between tests. So imagine, for instance, if you had mandatory testing done on Mondays and you have a resident or staff member that develops symptoms, mild as they may be, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and we have to ask the question, would we be tempted to not test those people just because we had a negative test 2 days prior and we expect them to have weekly tests on an ongoing basis? That might be part of the reason that there are still outbreaks in states where there is universal testing, in buildings where they're actually testing on a weekly basis. The reliance on universal testing as a cure-all for the pandemic in nursing homes is misguided and needs to be reconsidered. So the universal testing can be a good snapshot in time, which gives you a good baseline, but it is not a substitute for ongoing targeted smart testing. The other issue is the false results resulting from frequent testing. The Maine CDC recently expressed concern that with universal testing, there may be a risk of more false positives. I would argue that in dementia patients receiving weekly swabs are more likely to have false negative tests due to the fact that they're likely going to resist and will result in suboptimal specimen collection. Now, the same cannot be said for staff, although I also consider the factor of complacency on part of the staff if they feel that they're being tested every week, that that's the solution and that's the holy grail, and they may lose focus on everything else they have to do to mitigate the infection among themselves and their residents. So what is the ideal testing that we can hope for nursing homes and assisted livings instead of universal testing? One is testing of mildly symptomatic residents and staff that comprise the vast majority of COVID cases. The other is screening of all admissions from hospitals to nursing homes and having a mechanism for surveillance screening post-admission. The other is the screening of asymptomatic exposure cases, like we did today in our case at Durgan Pines. We screened residents and staff for exposure. Staff working with COVID patients, obviously, they need surveillance testing on a weekly basis at a minimum. And staff working in multiple facilities, which in case of Maine, they comprise about 46% of our workforce. Please see our testing guideline at the Maine Medical Directors Association website, the mainemda.com, and feel free to copy, print, and use that guideline without the need to request permission. Feel free to send me any questions via email, and please stay safe, and thank you for your service.